Hello, cult members. I'm King Link, and this is my last look and review of Cultist Simulator. Now, this is the last in my humble monthly bundle for March 2019. We've done Earth Defense Force 4.1, we've done Warhammer Vermintide 2, so let's go with the last of the series, Cultist Simulator. You know, I played a game in my first look and probably sounded pretty confused in the gameplay. I couldn't understand what I was doing wrong. Today, well, I guess I'm here to tell you it's not much better. You see, I struggled with this game. I put in close to 8 hours for the game, and I still am unsure what I'm doing, how to do it, and quite often if I'm doing it right at all. On screen, we'll be playing the game. It's the early part of the game. Now, I'll be rushing through the gameplay quite a bit to show off all the mechanics. If you want to see longer play, the first look's still available, but I will caution that some people see the correct moves as spoilers. We'll get there, but in case you want to go in completely fresh, maybe minimize the window or switch tabs while listening to my beautiful voice. But before we get to that, let's go over the nitty-gritty. So I don't forget to talk about the graphics or the story. The graphics of Cultist Simulator is as you see, perhaps a bit too plain and simple, but it works for a card game. Much of the game revolves around the cards, known as subjects or nouns, the actions, known as verbs, and you'll combine the two in various different ways to discover the hidden arts. If the game looks a bit plain, you'll see a few unique screens as you play, but for the most part, this is the game and the board that you're going to be playing on. It's a simple table where you combine the words and concepts back and forth and hope for the best. The story happens to have a similar issue. As the game starts for the first time, you'll work at a hospital in menial labor, where you'll get fired after using the work verb one time. From there, you start down the path of a cultist, learning about the mystic arts. The game is a true roguelike, where every time you die, you'll have a different way to begin the process the second time, though you can choose a similar one. You might be a physician, someone about to earn an inheritance, or even an inspector. But eventually on all these different starting positions, you'll be given an opportunity to learn about running a cult within about 5 minutes at the most. There's a great deal of writing in the game as well, and every piece of the story is done within a cult slant to draw the player deeper into the mystery. But most are delivered on a timetable, and a fast one at that. The writing is well done, but it didn't grip me since I was trying to focus on trying to understand the game as a whole. Still, the style is interesting. It's Lovecraftian in a number of ways. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Lovecraft, but really it's one that I wish I could have done more with. But the game will come down to gameplay, and that's where I feel the greatest disconnect with Cultist Simulator that held back my enjoyment of the, well, writing. It's not that I hate this game. I just find Cultist Simulator extremely frustrating every single time I play it. The game starts with the message, explore, take risks. You won't always know what to do next. Keep experimenting and you'll master it. You know, it's a great line and a great idea. Problem is, I don't know if I can agree with that last part. You see, the game doesn't give great feedback, and really that's a big problem. There was a part of the game where I could explore a sanitarium. To do this, you throw followers and funds at the problem. Then they'll go off explore and try to find the answers. So the game says, we can't go any further, we need the knock or the forge, I believe was the message. So I was ready to supply the mystic rite of knock, and was turned away. I could only give funds or followers, but then how do I give the mystic arts that I wanted to? So after pouring about 5 to 10 fun cards into the expedition, I checked online and realized they wanted a follower trained in the rite of knock. We'll talk about those new followers in a second, but the game then required me to wind down the expedition, and what that really meant is that every fun card that I had funded it with had to be expired individually one at a time. With 30 seconds needed per adding a card and 30 seconds needed to spend the card that was used, that was at least 5 minutes of time spent. There's no way to speed up this process, at least according to the game's internal timeline. There is a great fast forward button that goes about 3x and it really is nice, but once I used a health card to work, for instance, and suddenly needed to use a different set of cards before they expired in under 60 seconds. Unfortunately, since I clicked the start on the health card, the 60 seconds would be spent working with health, and my other cards had to expire. I would have gladly taken a penalty of some sort, but there's none available. Once you click start, you have to wait till it finishes. Now, as to how to earn followers, well, I don't know if I fully know. Or, I know, but it hasn't always worked out for me. It appears you have to talk about your secret arts in public. However, I've done this and I've only earned notoriety for it at times. It's possible I didn't do it at the right time, often I did it before I founded my cult, but if that's incorrect, the game has incorrectly taught me how not to do that. It worked when I tried it in this game, but it's a confusing situation, and I can also gain notoriety, which is a negative card. Similarly, when talking with my initial acquaintance in this game, which I was supposed to found my guild with, the game continued to tell me, you have begun to establish your guild. It will need a little more before you can recruit followers. In fact, I kept talking to that acquaintance over and over in my first game, building notoriety, which again is a negative, and found out no, the game's incorrect there. I needed to use the founding system, a second verb that had appeared. Talking no longer helped me convert him after the first step. In addition, what arts your followers will be trained in appear to be random, so I can't just go get a knock follower. I have to go and form him another way. Now, it's just this huge pile of things that I wanted to do in the game, and the game's smiling at me and waiting until I figured out exactly how to do that according to its rules. You know, the whole game's an interesting concept, but it doesn't produce an enjoyable experience. The biggest issue is there seems to be a high level of randomness, or just poorly written cards, such as talking to the follower. And I think of a Doodle God instead, where you combine two cards and that will guarantee a reaction if one is supposed to happen. Here, once you add in luck and timing, you'll probably teach the player the wrong thing. Maybe you don't find a follower every time, but if your player misses a follower twice or even 3 times in a row, they're learning that the process doesn't work. It's the wrong lesson, but it's the only one they're being taught. I found myself constantly stymied by the game, and it created a horrible experience. I would attempt a number of things, keep getting frustrated when the game gave me misinformation or no information, and eventually looked up the answers. A lot of fans call out almost everything about the mechanics of Cultist Simulator a spoiler, but the fact is, without those spoilers, players are going to often get lost. However, the game really is those spoilers. Understanding how to play everything will probably ruin the experience. But is an experience worth playing otherwise? Well, personally, I don't think so. I played this game about 6 hours. I gave up on it at least twice, only to come back because I had to review it for Humble Monthly Bundle. Damn you, Humble, you got me again. So after giving up, I went off to learn everything I could. I read every spoiler post I could find. I read other reviewers' articles. Normally I don't do that because I want to give you my opinion without any taint, and watched a bunch of YouTube tutorials. I wanted to try to get my head around this game because I didn't want to storm off in anger. Though, I do have a quick question about the reviews. I see a lot of decent scores for the games, but I don't see anyone saying they beat the game, which makes me wonder if people saw the challenge, couldn't get past something, and just assumed that it would be good. I mean, it's not the challenge that makes Dark Souls a great game. It's the gameplay that makes the challenge worthy. Hard games can be good, but the Cultist Simulator's challenge is in the wrong place. It's in the understanding, not the gameplay. And here's the thing, I put in maybe 2 or 3 more hours just to learn about the game outside of the gameplay. I still don't have a clue at the end game. I know a little more, maybe enough to go an extra step or two, but even watching someone's 90-minute world record speedrun, yes, 90 minutes is the fastest, most people will take probably a couple hours more than that. And I realized something, I really don't like Cultist Simulator, like at all. Even surviving and winning the game at this point probably would not feel like an achievement for me. The discovery loop is annoying. The game feels a little bit too simplistic outside of that discovery. It's rote memorization rather than really skill. And roguelike, yes, like, not light, I'll give it that nod at least, doesn't feel good when after you throw maybe 3 to 5 hours of very same gameplay away. At least in Rogue, every level is random. Here, you get the same interaction most of the time, so memorization is really the whole game. The randomness that would make the game more interesting actually harms the understanding, which is the core of this game, and thus the game is at odds with itself. There's really a few things that could have been done here. Now the first, I could say tutorial, but hold up, I won't. They don't want a tutorial here, and I give it that. A lot of games survived without a tutorial, even back in the day. I mean, Rogue itself, for a good example. It's actually an interesting idea. What I would recommend, though, is to look at something like Desktop Dungeons. That game gave little puzzles so people could learn the mechanics and try out different pieces of the game and characters to gain full understanding without having to spend hours or multiples to have a card fail and end up losing an entire run. That's where my real frustration keeps coming up. The next thing is being much clearer on cards. Even if some fans like the confusion, give me an option for more hints or direct hints. Maybe talking again would recruit them is a bad hint. It just adds notoriety. Instead, try another verb, or even pointing at the verb they should be using for founding. The game quickly becomes overwhelming too. A smaller ramp up at the beginning, at least for the first couple games, wouldn't have been hated, so players can become accustomed to all the systems. And finally, when the game uses special stats, try to make the player understand what those special stats are. Even showing the equation to show failure is good, especially if you mouse over and can highlight where those stats came from. They're in the bottom right corner of the verbs, but again, I had to read this online to figure it out. Really, this game is just so frustrating. That's why I gave up. I kept trying to have a good time, but, it wasn't to be. And I'm sorry, guys. I know some people out there are going to be mad. There's a lot of people who love this game, and if you get it, great. I'm thrilled for you. Maybe go out, write some better tutorials that show the entire game in under 2 hours of tutorial videos. That was an insane amount. Now, there's other stories of me playing the game, going down dead ends that aren't clearly marked, and more. But I think I've made my opinion of the game clear. It's a confusing game that I really don't want to play more of, and it's frustrating in so many different ways. I don't hate the game, I want to be clear on that, but it's really not for me, but I also can't recommend it because I feel like I should have been able to enjoy this game at some level. It's the game that fails, and it's the most frustrating because I was expecting to find a new gem that I could brag about finding first to all my friends about. But for anyone out there who enjoys this game, I think you can understand why I don't like this game. I hope I've been clear enough about that fact. It's not for everyone, and I think this could have been a better experience for more people. That's all I'm saying. I wanted a game that I felt a little more comfortable with, not the Dark Souls of understanding. It's not really that, but it kind of is. I give Cultist Simulator a 2 out of 5. That's a non-recommendation for me, and I'm sure some of you out there will be shocked and angered, but understand where I'm coming from. Most people out here won't like it. I really didn't, and I tried quite a bit, far more than I have any other game. While I appreciate that there's a lot of guys who listen to me, I can't just recommend the game only for people who already enjoy it. If it does sound interesting though, it is in this month's Humble Bundle for $12, but I really can't give it a nod. That is the Cultist Simulator, and this is the end of the Humble Monthly Bundle. Well, almost. I'm going to drop one more video about all 3 games, just a quick video of them to summarize. Check that out if you really care, but you probably have already seen them already. Coming up next, we have Dirt 4. I played it a while back, and we'll go back and talk about it again. If you've enjoyed this review, consider subscribing, guys. It helps me, and I really appreciate it. And we're on our way to 300 subscribers. I appreciate each and every one of you out there. Ring the bell if you want to be assured of being notified when I put out new reviews. And let me ask you one question. What card games are your favorite, either on PC or at home? I'm a huge fan of Dominion. I love playing Agricola, the board game, and I'm going to make that count. And I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Do I have any fans of that one out there? Let me know down below. Give me your favorites. Until next time, though, guys, I am King Link, and thank you for watching.